All right, so my name is Elijah. I'm doing a little bit of a quick VOD review analyst of some a game in a focused minor league. Just for a heads up, I've seen this game once before, just to kind of get myself familiar with the teams and the games and the comps they were playing. I guess a little bit of a warm up, but just another heads up: these teams are high plat average teams. So that's the level of gameplay that we're analyzing here. It's going to be a quick VOD review to kind of show you how I think about the game, how I talk about the game, and how I kind of articulate my ideas, and the ideas that I have personally. So we're going to start off in draft here, some WCE on blue side, KGG on red side, and I'm going to press play. So opening up with a blue side band Karma. Karma is very strong as support. Obviously, beats a lot of melee supports, as well as Rakan. So having Karma in there as an enchanter with our very, very, very cheap item set is really nice. So getting the ban out there is solid. I'm assuming the Jarvan ban is specific to the jungler. Normally Jarvan really isn't a ban in this meta, but I'm assuming KGG's jungler is a Jarvan one trick of some sort, and they just kind of want to take away his comfort champion. Having the Graves and Caitlyn banned on this side makes a lot of sense. Number one, Graves with Phase Rush is a counter into a lot of the tank junglers that you'll see come out in this meta. Stuff like Volibear, stuff like Olaf. Graves has a very good matchup into when it comes to Phase Rush, as well as Set. And then obviously the Ashe ban coming out third for WCE. Ashe being the other side of the strongest AD carry currently in bot lane, along with Caitlyn. Makes sense that neither of them would want to play against them. So third ban for KGG should be coming out here shortly. Their third ban is Lissandra. Now, personally, I think even if the mid lane is a Lissandra god, there is absolutely no reason to be banning Lissandra in the current meta. Number one, the majority of mages that are played right now have very good matchups to Lissandra. Stuff like Orianna, Corki, Azir. The only one I think that is meta right now that doesn't is LeBlanc. Lissandra is normally picked as an answer to assassin metas when you start seeing stuff like Aurelia, LeBlanc, Akali, Silas, even Echo to an extent pop up. Then you'll start seeing Lissandra as a counter pick. But if you're going to be picking standard control mages, your Orianas, your Syndras that already have very good matchups into Lissandra, I think that wasting a ban on that is just kind of unintelligent. So WC as first pick here. They end up going with a first pick of Philios. Now, I personally am not super, super happy when I see first pick of Philios, unless you know for sure the AD carry on the other side has no mages in the repertoire. Mainly due to the fact that Aphelios gets absolutely destroyed by most mages, primarily Syndra is the big one. If Syndra shows up into Aphelios, Aphelios essentially can't play the game, especially if she's paired with an aggressive support. Something like a Pike, Nautilus, Leona basically ensures that Aphelios can't even approach the wave. With a simple QE at level 2 or even 3, they can all in and get a kill on Aphelios for free. Makes it he can't even really approach the wave, he can't farm, he can't do anything. Granted, you're missing out on scaling by picking the Syndra. The scaling an AD carry provides, but you should be winning the game in 25 minutes anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Before Aphelios even has a chance to get a second or even third item to really deal damage. And KGG answers here with Xayah Rakan. I think that's fine into Aphelios, even though I think when you answer with Xayah Rakan, you open yourself up to some support counter picks that Rakan has that he really, really, really hates playing into. Three off the top of my head, you have Morgana, Leona, and Thresh. All three are not matchups for Rakan, and when you pair that with an Aphelios into Xayah Rakan, I don't think it's ideal. With the main reason being that Aphelios wants to do what Xayah wants to do a little bit, but better. So you're basically saying in this laning phase, I'm going to outfarm you by maybe 10, 15, 20. You can't engage on us because of the Thresh. And late game, I'm going to deal more damage than you. So then why are you picking Xayah? So I think that maybe if you want to pick one or the other, you pick the Xayah, and then force them to either take Aphelios Rakan, or show the support before you actually lock in the Rakan. or even lock in the Rakan on red 3, and then banning out Rakan counterpicks that you wouldn't want to go up against. So over here you have Ornn and Set picked by blue and red respectively. Ornn is basically saying to your top laner, I'm going to play weak side. We're going to be putting a lot of pressure towards bot side. We're going to go for early Drakes, which means you're probably going to go for an aggressive jungler that can handle taking early Drakes. Stuff like an Olaf, stuff like Nidalee, or even a Nunu if you're so inclined to be that kind of person. Even though Nunu in this comp I think would gimp them on damage a little bit. But it's basically saying that you're going to be playing away from top side and be playing towards bot side, if anything. Set, I think, is a very good R3, given the fact that you can flex him mid, top, or jungle. So you're not showing where he's going yet. So the set's not really giving away anything. And you're going to see that in WCE's ban phase, where they end up burning a couple bans due to not knowing where the set's going to go. Syndra makes sense as a ban here. She's a fine mid laner. She's a great blind pick. Getting rid of her if you're not comfortable playing into her, I think is totally okay. So banning the Mordekaiser out here because you don't know where the set's going yet is a really good draft play by KGG. It's basically forcing the mind game of, even though Set does naturally beat Ornn in the 1v1 top lane, there are matchups that are worse for him, such as Mordekaiser, which would make it very difficult for Set to play Ornn to play the game if they were to get that in top lane. Then banning out the Galio as well. Naturally, Galio paired with a Set and Rakan ultimate, or either Set or Rakan engage, is very, very, very difficult to fight into. So banning the Galio by WC is very smart to ensure they don't get that kind of backline access from what I'm assuming will be a full AP Galio, if they were to get it, which they don't, naturally. And then Olaf, because you're trying to pick a jungler that you're trying to basically take away one of their options to just kind of power farm and stack Drakes and be able to fight at any stage in the game through the jungle. So when you're banning the Olaf there, you're saying you want to pick one of the more stable tank junglers, like either flexing the set into jungle or what they eventually end up doing, taking Volibear. Orianna, naturally, if you're not going to have mid counter pick, taking the Orianna here I think is the smartest thing to do, considering the fact that she's the most stable meta mage right now. She doesn't really have any terrible matchups, and she can play into pretty much anything. So blinding Orianna here, if you have to blind mid lane, is a really solid move. Even the Set Volibear, you can take either of them top or jungle, so jungle is essentially picking semi-blind as well, so you have to pick something that'd be good into either Set or Volibear. And they end up going with the Kindred. Now, Kindred in isolation is a great matchup into either Set or Volibear. They have the ability to kite them out, they have the ability to stack Conquer on them and just eventually out-heal them as well, and deal damage very, very quickly. So I like the Kindred pick in isolation against either Set or Volibear. And KGG ends up finishing on Azir. Azir is really solid because he likes having those kinds of frontliners like Set and Volibear to kind of Set Volibear and Rakan to engage for him to kind of hold them in place, makes that he can use his wall purely defensively against either a flanking Ornn or maybe a flanking even Kindred or Thresh if they decide to get onto him. So Azir really likes his team comp because due to the fact that he's just allowed to fight freely off of backside. So I'm going to skip ahead to the beginning of the game here and then discuss lane states. So, starting off, you can see how I said the Kindred pick in isolation is very good into whatever jungler to pick, whether it was Set or Volibear. It ends up being Volibear. Alright, still great into Volibear, that's solid. Volibear in this matchup, I think it would be really, really solid if he were to tech into Phase Rush instead of the press the attack, due to the fact that if Kindred were to catch Volibear in the jungle, it's very bad news for Volibear. Volibear can't fight, and he can't really run due to the fact that Kindred has the stacking W's, a 2-second cooldown, obviously. Very good chase, especially if he shows up with red buff. It gets even worse for Volibear. So being able to have the Phase Rush and just kind of run at Kindred, proc Phase Rush, and run away, or even chase if you decide to take the fight after that fact, wouldn't be the worst idea. On top of that, you have Lethal Tempo on Aphelios, which I think is fine. I think that Conqueror is a little bit better, given how fast Aphelios can stack Conqueror. with his abilities and auto attacks, especially Red Gun. But, you know, if you're so inclined to go lethal tempo, I won't shit on you for it. I think it's fine. And then the Conqueror by Kindred, instead of press the attack, means you're looking for a lot more sustained fights, considering you're going to be fighting a lot of the Volibear. I think is also fine. It's a good option here. I think they both work. Press the attack obviously is a little bit better early game, but you don't really have to play Kindred for early game here. Now, when I said I liked the Kindred in isolation against the Volibear, that is 100% true. However, hypothetically, early game push and priority goes to Set and Azir. So, if Kindred is so unlucky to have her first mark spawn on topside Crab, then unfortunately she's going to be stuck waiting quite some time before getting her first mark, due to the fact that top lane is Set favored, mid lane, at least push-wise, is Azir favored, especially considering the fact that he's taken Halo Blades to get extra harass on the Orianna early game. Means that she can never really invade topside. Her only option is maybe bot side, off of the Aphelios Thresh getting a nice push in, and then helping her maybe take a camp there if necessary, or taking the crab there if necessary. So I think that Kindred normally would have a little bit of a tough time playing the matchup here, at least getting stacks. The matchup itself is fine, but getting stacks could be a little bit of a problem as the game progresses. So press play. We're looking back into this one. Skipping ahead a little bit. We have blue and red side touch from Kindred and Volibear. Fine. They can try to get some early action done if they want to. I think that Kindred ganking these are a little bit difficult once Azir hits level 3, considering he'll have access to his full mobility combo. But I'm assuming they'll just both full clear and then maybe try to make a gank after that. As you can see, it's happening just the way I said. Set is getting push priority on the Ornn. He's winning level 1 and 2 trades. Azir is doing the exact same thing. He's winning. They're not trading, but he's at least having push priority with the Sand Soldiers to ensure that when 3 minutes comes around and or 3:30 comes around and the Scuttle spawn, that he'll be able to be first to rotate there. Bot lane is also trying to do the same if it were to spawn bot side to ensure that Aphelios Thresh gets their levels first. They get priority, so that if worst case scenario, Kindred can come bot for bot side scuttle, and they can ensure that at least she gets one of the scuttles. She doesn't get double scuttled, and gets put very far behind. And that's exactly what they end up doing. Thresh and Aphelios, after shoving that wave in, walk up, place vision, make sure the Volibear doesn't come to try to mess with the Kindred when it comes to Scuttle Crab here. And luckily for Kindred, Mark spawns on bot side. So she ends up getting it. Very nice, very good, very happy. Everyone's good. Everyone feels nice. Orianna managed to get pushed on Azir here. Unfortunately, I don't know how that happens early game, but I guess it does. One thing I forgot to talk about, going back a little bit. First item Corrupting Pot on Orianna, I think, is a bit of a crutch. I get that you could be taking a little bit more harass from Azir than you would normally, given the fact that he has Halo Blades. I still think that you're going to want the Doran's Ring so you can at least keep up with this push with the extra mana gen you get from having Doran's Ring. I think that if you're taking Corrupting Pot, you're being kind of greedy. And if necessary, what you can really, really do is start Doran's Ring 2 pots. And if you exhaust your 2 pots, you can reset around 750 800 gold. And get D-Ring, Dark Seal refillable, and maybe a pot, or maybe even double D-Ring and a refillable if you want to go that route. But starting Corrupting, I just think, is never the right move here, because it's taking away a P from early trades. You're not getting the mana regen. Granted, you're getting an artificial 225 mana, but the mana regen you get from having Doran's Ring is much more than you get from just Corrupting Pot outright. Now, I don't really like this play from Azir. I think that he plays this very, very, very poorly. They're both trading because they both have their junglers here. They want to try to bait the other one into a fight. They don't know. So Azir here has 2 Sand Soldier's stacked on top of Oriana when he E's in. His E, being his only mobility spell, should never, ever, ever be used until it has to be used. It's 70 mana, it's fairly expensive, and he's using it here for what? A 90 health shield that, by the way, you're going to see, doesn't even get used. It disappears before Kindred starts attacking him, so he's using it for like a 90 health shield for no reason. He ends up dying. When he flashes up the lane, when he could flash into tower, granted, if he flashes towards tower, does he still die? Maybe. But at the very least, it forces Kindred to take tower shots and potentially trade back a kill for that. If she decides to try to go for that kill, it might at least dissuade her from going for it. So not only did he misplay it by Eing in, he also misplayed it by flashing up instead of flashing back towards his tower, or at least at an angle towards his tower to force Kindred under the tower if she wanted the kill. So that was just a pure misplay. Things are going very poorly for KGG right out the gate. Top lane is at a health disadvantage somehow at this stage. Granted, he's in a pretty good spot to just back for either double longsword or a D blade and a longsword in a little bit, but as Ornn is Ornn and can build items in lane, he's kind of in a rough spot. The way he's pushing in, he really should take the reset and just kind of TP back in and try to force Ornn to match TPs with him. Because at this current stage, Ornn can push in this wave and then just walk back to lane for free and have TP up for Ocean Drake in 10 seconds, while Set won't have it up, which ends up happening. So right now you're kind of seeing the way the lane is going bot lane. It's at a slight gold advantage for Aphelios right now. It's going to continue that way. No one's really fighting. What happens down here in this lane is the first person to engage the fight loses, right? Because if you have the Thresh engage with Hook into E, Thresh no longer has his ability to peel off the Rakan. The Rakan W's the Thresh, and they get a Xayah root, and that ends up being a one fight for Xayah Rakan. However, Rakan can also never engage because if Thresh has fingers and understands what his abilities do, Rakan gets flayed away every single time and never gets a chance to actually engage. So it's kind of a stalemate where Aphelios, like I said, will end up outscaling the Xayah and dealing more damage in teamfights later on. So if they play the lane safe, they play it just small CS leads by Aphelios, get as big as possible. You can have the Thresh even standing in front of the wave to ensure that Xayah Rakan misses out on CS or even misses out on experience if you get that far ahead. That's really the way you want to play this lane out. Now, here is something that I really, really don't like out of the Kindred. I think the Kindred is a little bit isn't thinking very well about the game. So what's going on here is this wave is stacking very, very large. They don't know where Volibear is on the map. The only ward they have is right here, right? Which means they don't have vision in Volibear's jungle. They don't have vision up the river. They only have this ward right here. So if Volibear's to come from behind them, that's great. If he blast plants over the wall, they're fucked. If he goes through river, they're fucked. There's a bunch of ways they just have no way to anticipate this Volibear gank. And they need to get this wave to crash so they can reset and get BF Sword for Aphelios, right? So Kindred, instead of doing her Raptors right now like she's doing, greedy, should be hovering around bot side, maybe right here, maybe even in the bush, or maybe even walking in through the backside to ensure that that this exact play or this play isn't happening. Instead, she's doing Raptors, and this is the outcome. The outcome is they step up. They have no idea Volibear's in the bush, and Aphelios gets one shot. Now, the upside here on Aphelios is that he doesn't blow either of his summoners, which is good. That wouldn't have saved him. The only way he would have saved him is if he flashed the initial Rakan hook, or the initial Rakan knock-up, which he couldn't because he was stunned by Volibear. Now, one thing I really, 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 really hate about KGG here is what they end up doing here with the kill they got bot lane. Normally, this kill translates into a free Ocean Drake. Early on, that's really great. You're going to get the extra health regen and the mana regen for the Azir Oriana lane. That's fantastic, right? What you would assume here is that Azir walks up, he starts the Ocean Drake, maybe Rakan walks up with him, Xayah pushes in the wave, walks up to kind of help them finish securing it. Worst case scenario, Kindred and Oriana walk down, Azir follows, it's a 4v2. There's no way they can fight it. They know Thresh has to reset, they know that Aphelios is dead, right? What instead ends up happening is Zaya and Rakan decide they both need to stand here to push in the wave. Rakan begins his reset for some reason, and then cuts it out, and Volibear prioritizes Scuttle Crab over at just doing Ocean Drake. I never in a million years will understand why he does this. He has a free Drake right in front of him, doesn't take it, instead lets them regroup, come and contest the Drake, and they eventually end up losing it. In a ridiculous turn of events, lets Orianna get pushed on the Zero under tower. This Drake should have been dead 10 to 15 seconds ago. It should just be a gone Drake. Now, when this happens, I don't get how this happens the way it does. You first of all are letting the Orianna get this close when you have W from Rakan. You have the tools to keep her away at that health value, or at least the Kindred. You have to jump on someone there. You can't just concede the fight and then just be like, I guess we're in a smite fight and then it's over. Like, that doesn't make any sense. The fact that Orianna gets it is also just unacceptable. Azir never engages. They decide to never take the fight, despite the fact that they're up numbers. They can at least try to force an Azir shuffle into their blue side jungle. They don't do it. They lose the fight. They lose the dragon. Unlucky. So this is a fight between two guys top lane. It's boring. Nothing happens. However, this fight eventually will lead into a solo kill by Ornn. Ornn itemization here is excellent. Ornn going double cloth armor into a bramble vest, knowing that the only means Set actually has to damage Ornn is auto attacks, making bramble vest a ridiculously effective item. Him knowing that and him actually building towards it is really, really solid on his part. I really like the orange build path this game. He gets the bramble vest on the next attempt. He gets the bramble vest. My fault. Ornn is walking up, taking free damage, taking bad trades to help to try to get the. Sorry, the Set is taking the bad trades, trying to get the Ornn out of building his item. Eventually, Ornn will get it. Now, the thing that I really, really hate about this is that Ornn, right now, on his gold value, should have Bilgewater Cutlass and Boots to buy right now. He pushes in the wave, that's great. You push in the wave, you have a free recall, you can walk back because you don't need a TP, and then, when Ornn is sitting around 60% health, you can then fight him, force him out of lane, force him to reset, and use his TP to come back. So then, when the next Drake spawns, you have TP advantage and Ornn does not. Instead, the Mastermind Set decides that pushing in the wave and just walking in circles is the move. I don't understand why he doesn't just take the reset. He instead just hangs out here at, weirdly enough, within kill range of the Ornn. On top of this, no vision. No vision in jungle. He doesn't know where Kindred is. Kindred could very well be there. And he gets solo killed by the Ornn, because Ornn now has Bramble Vest. He has no way to fight back. This is just pure misplay when it comes to macro. The Ornn should have reset for his items. As you can see, like I said, he bought Bilgewater and Boots. I will never understand in a million billion years why he doesn't just take the reset there instead of just walking back and forth and watching the Ornn farm under tower. I didn't think it was that interesting, but I guess he begged to differ. So, right here, clears the wave, that's nice. Doing really solid, and Aphelios is building a small CS lead, as I said he would. On top of that, Aphelios shows he understands the nature of the lane by buying Call. Call here is an extremely effective item. You essentially gain the extra AD, the extra life on hit, as well as the extra gold by buying it, while not really missing out on anything gold-wise. You're basically trading in the boots and refillable that Zaya bought in exchange for a Call. Boots give you no real combat effectiveness. Obviously, the move speed is factored in somewhere, but not in an actual fight. The move speed isn't that important. It's not something that's really going to make a difference in a fight. So he has the extra Call. He's going to have the extra gold. He's going to scale faster than the Zaya. And as I said before, he's going to deal more damage than Zaya in the late game. He's got his small CS lead. He's up 8 right now. He's feeling good about himself. He's playing the lane out properly. So things go pretty standard, pretty fine. Dragon spawned in 2.5 minutes. Everyone just kind of farming out their lanes. We're relaxing. This fight is an interesting one. So naturally, Ornn catches the Volibear doing that. He has to use a smite on it. That's okay. Volibear tries to escape. Now, this is something that I don't understand from the Azir. As you can see from the Azir, you run into Ornn, right? Set is obviously on the same page as the Volibear. Set is walking down for the fight. Azir decides that finishing these last 4 minions is more important than coming out for the fight. And because of this, this ends up happening. They end up chasing down the Set. Set burns his flash. If Azir simply walks up here, it's a 3v2 for at least 10 seconds before the Orianna has a chance to actually get there. They probably kill the Kindred for free, and they all get out together. Instead, a very, 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 very messy fight ensues. You see the draft advantage of having the Azir versus the Ornn. We're just pushing them both out of the ultimate, getting the free kill on there. Granted, because Azir took so long, Orianna had the chance to run all the way and trade more kills for the Volibear for the Kindred, which should never ever happen. On top of that, go back a little bit. You can see that not only was the Azir not on the same page as the rest of his team, the Ornn and the Kindred were also not on the same page as each other. As the Ornn is walking away, he thinks the fight is over. The Kindred goes in and actually ends up flashing for the Set. If they simply just stayed on the Set together, this is a kill 100% of the time. They need to be able to communicate the fact that this is happening and the way that it's happening. Instead, Ornn is simply waiting over wall on blast cone, ends up having to flash in just to miss his knockup. It's a mess by both sides. The only upside here is, again, if Azir simply did his job of rotating up when he should have rotated up, none of this ever happens. They kill Kindred and get out for free. So I think that Kindred is kind of floated by Azir's incompetence here, rather than actually being a smarter, good jungler. So they're getting another big advantage. They're up 18 CS now bot lane. They're getting tower plates. They're going to get 2 of them here, I think. Nope, just 1. All right. We're getting a tower plate. That's excellent. Aphelios is slowly growing his lead over the Xayah. He's going to hit his item breakpoint first. This is what happens when you fall behind an Ornn as Set. You get solo killed on cooldown. That's your fault for not playing the lane properly and not resetting when you should have. People will complain, say Ornn is broken. It's not broken if you simply do what you're supposed to do. Reset your proper item breakpoints. I have no idea why Volibear is even attempting this gank, considering the fact that Thresh obviously still has Lantern. There's no way they ever get that kill, and even if he doesn't have Lantern, Xayah or Khan are not in position to make that play work. Ornn continues his absolute domination on the top side, man mode style. Takes a great reset after getting a turret plate. Understands he doesn't just sit there and just hit the turret like a brainless man. And again, Aphelios showing he understands the nature of the matchup. Freezing the lane here. I love the freeze. I'm not sure about doing it 30 seconds before Mountain Drake comes up, considering you're going to want to be there for that Mountain Drake fight. But the idea is there at least. He has some semblance of what he wants to do. He knows what he wants to do, and he's doing it. Now, what ends up happening here is KGG is conceding second Drake to WCE in exchange for Rift Herald. There is a problem with the way they're doing this. The play itself is the correct play to make, with how far you are behind bot side, as well as the fact that Orianna is a little bit ahead and Kindred is a little bit ahead. Contesting second Drake here isn't smart. So trading for Herald and trying to get some plate gold out of it, or maybe even a first tower, is the right move. But if you're going to do that, considering the disadvantages you're at, you have to send 4 or 5 top lane. The Xayah being bot right now is not okay. The Rakan being bot right now is not okay. It makes it so that they can both get Drake and defend your Herald, if they want to, which they end up doing. And that should never ever happen. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to this Herald. Naturally, Volibear for some reason is soloing the Herald, instead of having his team come down to get it for free. And because of that, Kindred gets Dragon for free. and everyone on WC has a chance to rotate up and stop the Herald. Not instead of trading Herald for Dragon, you are trading Herald for nothing for free, and your jungler's dying for it. He's dying, right? Yeah, he is. All right. You trade 1 for 1. That's fine. Jungler for support. If the jungler is dead, you can't do the Herald. Unlucky. Set here will also die, if I remember correctly. All right, Set lives. Still, there's never a situation where you should be having Xayah and Aphelios just farming against each other bot lane. Xayah needs to be up there for that fight in order for you to get that Herald. With how far they are down gold wise, they don't have the ability the luxury to have Xayah just kind of chilling bot lane during this fight because, as you can see, they could both get Dragon and defend Herald at the same time with this kind of gold lead. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Lane states are staying as they should. Ornn is now playing the lane very, very aggressively because he can. Set can't trade back because he has Bramble Vest as well as Ninja Tabby, so he takes no damage and actually deals more damage to Ornn while he fights. Set here playing a little bit dumb to try to bait Ornn in, maybe played a little bit too dumb, he gets a little bit too low here, but they end up making a nice little bait play for the Ornn before Kindred shows up. So Kindred showing here, I think, is the right play, and it's good that she was shadowing. Unlucky she doesn't get that. Now, what confuses me about this, the Azir push is fine. They get good damage, they get the Kindred. Kindred just doesn't press R for some reason. I'm not sure why. Now, I'm not saying Kindred pressing R would save her. I still think she dies. But if Kindred presses R, instead of going 0 for 2 and making it so that her and Ornn both die for nothing, they could at least attempt the trade onto Set and make it a 2 for 1 so the play at least isn't entirely lost. But I guess her fingers were too cold and she couldn't press her buttons in time. But yeah, that ends up being a 0 for 2 on a failed dive. Thresh is mirroring the Rakan. That's a very good map movement from the support there. And the lead continues to grow for WCE. Now, WCE's main win condition here right now is Infernal Drake. As you're going to see. Given the fact that if the game hits 35, 40 minutes, KGG's comp is strictly better at fighting with the Azir and the fat frontline engage. Even through the Ornn items, it's not as important as you'd think. So, if the game were to hit that point without Infernal Soul coming in for WCE, it'd be very troublesome for them. So their goal here is basically to get Infernal Soul as fast as possible. The gold lead continues to grow bot lane. Now they're up about 30 CS. Excellent. For some reason, Ornn doesn't understand the position he's in and continues to... Sorry, not Ornn. Set doesn't understand the position he's in and continues to take bad trades into Ornn. You can say that they're even, given the fact that Set has 2 kills and Ornn has 2 kills, but the fact of the matter is, given the nature of the matchup, that is not even. At this stage in the game, Ornn should have between 65 and 70 CS, and Set should be... There should be a 25 to 30 CS differential between Ornn and Set. If Set plays the matchup properly, if he takes his resets right, if he understands when and how to fight the Ornn should be very, very far down here. The fact that they're even at this stage in the game means the Ornn is actually very far ahead, because Ornn shouldn't be nowhere near as good a position as he is. It should be Blade of the Ruined King to maybe a Bramble Vest and a Ruby Crystal, instead of what it actually ends up being. Bramble Vest, full bombies, and Ninja Tabby. So, Kindred ends up getting the Herald for free, off of the fact that Set can't do anything about the Ornn, and Volibear is bot side. Is he on Vision? Yeah, he was seen going in through River on WC's Pink Ward. Now, this is a position where I think that Ornn, if he hits his knockup here and doesn't shortchange it, actually does win the fight. But unfortunately, he plays it a little bit badly. He misses his knockup. They're both forced to flash, even though the Set flashes offensively, Ornn flashes defensively. But it's just 2 flashes that didn't have to happen. So Lane resets. Everything stays stable, nice and good. And the Herald play goes up topside. Now this is something that just makes me believe that Kindred is she not looking at her monitor? What's happening here? So she goes in. This is the right play to make. Obviously, Set is dead here. You can't do anything. Why do you eat the entire combo? Is it? Am I insane, or is Kindred is a range champion? She has no reason to be fighting standing perfectly still in melee range of a Set. If she doesn't tank that entire combo along with the grit, they're able to get a second charge onto the tower for Herald, as well as set up properly for Drake. But instead, because of this, the Azir rotating up, they have to abandon Herald. They don't get second charge, and it ends up being a little bit less useful than it could be. That's just unacceptable from a player with a brain and fingers to be standing still and eat the entirety of set combo with a full grip bar. That's just not okay. So naturally, they're sending all 5 bot. This is third Drake. It would put them on soul point. Weirdly enough, Set should be walking bot with the rest of his team, but I guess decided that because he has TP, the 7 farm he's going to get out of it, and a little bit of top lane tier 1 damage at 17 minutes when plates are already down is more worth it. And initially, KGG decides they want to try to fight it. They place their pink in the pit where it has 0 effectiveness whatsoever. But at this point, with Orianna on the item points that she's at, and Aphelios having a full infinity edge, there's just no way realistically for KGG to fight without maybe a miracle set ultimate, which he doesn't have because he used it against the Ornn. So Ornn can just walk in, force them out of the dragon area, and WCE gets to take dragon for free. Puts them on soul point, puts KGG in a very, very, very bad spot. Unfortunately. And they're forced to just concede. So they sent for a bot for nothing. Volibear continues to fall further behind. The level differential is there. Aphelios gets further and further ahead, and Kindred again fighting in melee range for whatever reason. She can do it, I guess, because she's ahead and the Orianna's there that is very ahead, but she ends up dying. She has an ult there. I actually agree with her not ulting it. That wouldn't make sense, given the fact that even if she presses R, Azir answers with his ultimate, and it ends up being a wash. She still dies. This is a trade that ends up happening that I think is pretty interesting. The Orange should never be in a position to get traded on like that. However, the fact that it was a 1-for-1 just continues to push the game further and further in Ornn's favor. Even though they're even kills, even though they're relatively even CS, the scaling that Ornn has access to and the fact that he does outscale the set to such a ridiculous degree means that he's in a fantastic spot to help his team carry the game later on. Now, normally I would say Orianna should be going for a Liandry's here, given the fact she's going to be hitting the front line a lot of Volibear and Set, and stacking up Madness passives, getting the percent health burn. But going Death Cap second when you have an Ornn on your team actually makes a lot of... I want to discuss this fight, but it actually makes a lot of sense, given the fact that Liandry's isn't an Ornn upgrade item. That's just it. You need to be able to make sure that you have your Ornn upgradable items and make sure that Ornn can upgrade something when he gets his level 14, 15, 16, right? So rushing Death Cap here is something I think is okay. So the fight that's about to happen bot lane occurs for literally no reason and occurs very poorly. Number one, when he throws this, he should be ready to throw Lantern onto Aphelios to ensure that Aphelios is on top of the fight when it happens. But what I said earlier also comes into play. The first one to engage a fight in this lane loses the fight. And you'll see exactly what I mean play out right now. So he engages. Zai now has access to ultimate, makes it worse. Immediately gets knocked up, gets rooted. Exactly what I said happens in the exact way I said it would happen. Not only did it happen in that exact way, but Aphelios was also not in range to do that fight. The fight should never even happen to begin with. Even if, let's say they get the kill, let's say things go perfectly, what do they gain off that other than 300 gold? There's no dragon on the map. It's just it's too high variance of a play to be taken effectively. It's something that needs to be, that you really need to think of before you do it, and you can clear the thresh, just saw a highlight play and decided to go for it, rather than really thinking, why am I doing this? So things are kind of slowing down a little bit. Continuing to skip ahead. Still pretty standard. They attempt to make a play here. I think this is the right play for them to make, but the fact of the matter is Azir is way too far back, and I guess is just not paying attention to the fact that his team is trying to make a play, because Orianna should never have the ability to flash out of that between the charm and the knockup. Before she hits the ground, she should be getting knocked back by the Azir ultimate, right? And if she's going to flash, she's going to be flashing over that Azir wall after she's taken the damage from Azir ultimate. And if, at least if she survives there, maybe she's right, maybe she doesn't. I think she dies personally. But at least she survives there. She can't stay and then continue to clear the wave. So Azir, that's entirely another blunder on Azir, that he needs to be in position to make sure that he's actually assisting his support trying to make a play there. And he just wasn't in a position for that at all. So they get the Orianna flash. That's cool and all. They also burn the Azir flash, though. So they burn flash for nothing. So I'm going to keep skipping ahead a little bit here. Nothing really important is going on. They get tower here. Excellent. Good job. Kindred needs to open her eyes when she's backing in a bush. She has vision on the Rakan. She started her back anyway. Granted, it's just a little bit of damage. It's just annoying to see when you just obviously, I guess, have your eyes off the computer. I don't know. But, Dragon's up in 34 seconds. Ornn is walking down, as he should be. It's going to be a 5v5. Everyone has their items. Looking at the item points here, there is no way KGG ever wins this fight. However, they still have to take it, because if WCE gets Infernal Soul, they lose anyway. We can look at the items here. Ornn has... Alright, he has his item, and then two parts of two different items. That's still good. We have almost have Bork done by Kindred. The big items you're looking at is 2 items on each of the carries on WCE. You have a massive Deathcap power spike in the Orianna, and then the pretty big Runaan's and IE spike on Aphelios. Xayah can never hope to output even close to the amount of damage Aphelios is about to put out. Neither can Azir, especially if he's going fucking Oblivion Orb. Now, the argument here between Oblivion Orb and Haunting Guys, because obviously he can't finish the Andres right now before the important dragon fight. However, Oblivion Orb is something that he's not getting good value out of, because I think even the 18 magic pen that he's getting from it isn't nearly as useful as the 10% madness passive you'd get from Eyes of Torment, right? Or Haunting Guys, sorry. The 10% madness passive you get from Haunting Guys. And that's kind of really upsetting to see, mainly the fact that Azir has to know he's going to be hitting a lot of the Thresh and a lot of the Ornn, and stacking up that Madness passive very easily to get the 10% bonus damage. And if he's building into Morello's, why is he building into Morello's? Is he building it for the Bork healing on Kindred? Is he building it for Red Gun healing on Aphelios? The world may never know, because it's just strictly the wrong item to build in this case and scenario. So let's see how the fight plays out. Good on KGG. They're finally setting up vision around Dragon in a way that makes sense. It's a shame it took them 3 dragons to do that, but it's nice that they at least learned on the 4th, where it doesn't matter, you're too far behind to actually fight it. Now, something I'm going to see here out of the Ornn is kind of frustrating a little bit. Now, what Ornn should be doing in this fight, given how tanky he is and just how far his team is ahead, is he should be walking up and threatening either a QE, just an E against the wall, or an ultimate, right? He should be threatening it, not using it until they get into one of these 2 choke points. What he should be doing is he should be zoning them into their top side jungle, into their blue side jungle, starting up the dragon, and then when they come to actually contest it, knowing that you started it, through either here or here, even though it's most likely here, once they're in this choke, then Ornn ults. It's a guaranteed hit, or they all have to just kind of get in this corner, and then they can't actually contest the Drake. You do the Drake for free, and you get it no problem, right? Instead, he ults in the middle of the river. You don't want to ult in the middle of the river unless they have no way out, mainly because it gives them too much room to work with, especially when they have Scuttle Crab down. If they have that much room to work with, you can never guarantee that the ult will ever hit, especially if you have a Set doing what Set does right now. Ulting Ornn out of his ultimate. He can't do it. Kindred is, of course, only thinking about herself again, and ulting when Orianna has a perfect ultimate set up right here. If Kindred doesn't ult, that's an ace immediately. Granted, they're still so far ahead they win the fight, so it doesn't matter. But let's call a spade a spade. It was a bad play. You kind of have to think about your ultimate saving the other team as well when you're playing Kindred. I just think maybe this person just didn't have it on mind, I guess. Naturally, even without the Kindred, the Ornn, I think, should be stepping up a little bit further to be trying to fully zone and ensure that nobody's going to try to get a sneak steal on that Drake, considering their smite is dead. But it works out anyway. They get it. It's a win. They get the Infernal Drake. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. There's not much to see after this point. It was one or two things I wanted to look at. Naturally, they're setting up Vision for Baron and topside jungle. Both top laners have TP. Ornn is just going to fight the Set because he has Infernal Soul, so he's just going to outdamage him. And B, he's so far ahead in the lane, he can't possibly lose. Good for him. So, he's taking a trade on the Set. He takes a trade right here. I think ideally he holds the ultimate. Great play on him for getting the second half of that ultimate off, though. I think ideally he holds it, and he holds it for this Baron fight and then TP's up. Right now, Ornn should be TPing into this brush to help further zone the rest of their team off. He doesn't. It ends up working out because they're so far ahead, but ideally this is the play you want to do to ensure that the Volibear or the Set or the Azir to try to get a steal over the wall. They end up getting it anyway. Ornn stays bot, keeps stopping the back of Set. Now, this is a Kindred ult I can really agree with. When Volibear jumps in there, he's at a fairly high health value, considering Kindred ult won't let you get below 10% health, while including the Baron. She's keeping the Baron alive while ensuring that they have the time to burn through Volibear and then kill him as soon as the ult goes off, right? So he doesn't have the ability to steal. Volibear's crying, he's punched in the air, he's furious, he's so mad, he dies, right? This is a Baron for free, the Ornn is now here. They get it, no problem, they never stood a chance, right? After this, there's one more play I wanted to take a look at, but it's pretty standard. They push down bot, mainly because that's where the Kindred mark is. Or they place Orianna in a position to make it look like she was alone and pushing alone, and then they went to go cover the route that they would take the ganker, which is through bot side Tribrush. And that's really, really solid because it basically ensures that they get a pick, or it gives them the option to possibly get a pick if they try to ganker, and turn that burn into an automatic victory. Because if the Volibear dies here, it's just over. It's a 4v5. They're this far ahead. Another thing I hate is the fact that Orianna is building Oblivion Orb, which means she's building it into a team with essentially no important healing. It's another wasted item. You're better off going into Liandry's with the Madness passive and the burn. But it happens anyway. This Azir makes another blunder on Azir where he just flat out misses his shuffle. Unlucky. But WCE is just too far ahead at this point to really possibly lose this game. They run it in, get the whole game. Game is over. So, this is just a little bit of, I guess, me showing off my game knowledge, how I talk about the game, how I kind of go through these kinds of VOD review sessions, the thoughts are going through my head. Let me know what you think. I'd be happy to have a conversation about anything over Discord or whatever. Yeah, so let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.